The man in old clothes, the sky above Los Angeles was soft and gray, as if the city had forgotten how to shine that morning. It was one of those quiet Mondays when people rushed to look important, yet no one really knew where they were going. Tucked between tall buildings and wide sidewalks stood a luxury salon that glowed like a jewel. Behind its polished glass doors, the air smelled of perfume, hairspray, and expensive pride. Inside, the staff were already busy. Stylists in sleek, black uniforms, makeup artists in perfect heels, and front desk workers with smiles that didn't always reach their eyes. They greeted customers with syrupy voices and offered imported coffee with rehearsed charm. The place wasn't just a salon, it was a stage, and only those who looked the part were allowed to feel welcome. At exactly 10:23 a.m., the glass door opened and a man stepped in. His presence didn't match the salon's glossy energy. He wore a worn brown jacket, faded jeans, and old black boots. His hair, though clean, was long and slightly tangled. A few gray strands peeked through. He didn't wear sunglasses or a flashy watch. In fact, he didn't even carry a phone. He walked, slowly, almost shyly, like someone who wasn't sure if he belonged. The receptionist glanced up. Her smile froze for a second before snapping back into place. "Hello, sir," she said, her voice stiff. "Do you have an appointment?" The man nodded gently. "Yes, under the name Keanu. Just a trim." She typed on her computer, frowning, as if something smelled off. The name meant nothing to her. No last name, no title, no stylist request, and most importantly, no style. Behind her, two stylists whispered near the mirrors. One of them, a tall man with perfect eyebrows and too much perfume, whispered loudly enough for others to hear. "Did he walk in from the street?" The other chuckled. "Wrong address, maybe. There's a barber 2 blocks down." Keanu heard them. He didn't react. He simply stood there, waiting, patient, calm, like an old tree rooted in a storm. Finally, the receptionist sighed and waved at a junior stylist, a young girl named Maya who had joined just 2 weeks ago. She was sweet, quiet, and not yet poisoned by the arrogance around her. "Maya, you're free, right?" "Take Keanu." Maya looked at the man and smiled. It wasn't forced. Something in his eyes told her he wasn't just anyone. Maybe it was the way he stood, or the sadness tucked beneath his calm. "Of course," she said. "Right this way." Keanu followed her through the salon. As he passed, more eyes turned. Some judged, some scoffed. A rich client in a velvet robe whispered to her stylist, "Who let the homeless guy in?" He sat on the leather chair. Maya gently placed a cape over him and combed through his hair. "Just a trim, right?" she asked kindly. He nodded. "Yes, thank you." Maya worked carefully. The scissors whispered as they moved, and while she cut, they talked. She asked him about his day. He asked her about hers. He was kind, curious, not nosy, not fake, real. "I just moved here," Maya shared, her voice soft. "I was scared. This job's not easy, but it helps pay rent." "You're doing great," Keanu said, meaning every word. "You're gentle. Not everyone is," she smiled, comforted by his words. But behind them, the other stylists stared. Some laughed. Others rolled their eyes. Halfway through the cut, the salon manager walked over. She was dressed like royalty, tight, blazer, glossy nails, sharp heels. "Maya," she said coldly, "can I speak with you? Now." Maya looked at Keanu, then followed her boss. In the back office, the manager folded her arms. "Why are you wasting time on him?" "He's my client," Maya replied, surprised. "He booked an appointment." "Look at him," the manager snapped. "Does he look like someone who can pay for a luxury cut? We are a premium salon, not a shelter." Maya stood her ground, her voice trembling. "He's kind, and he booked like anyone else." He doesn't belong here. Finish quickly and don't talk too much. And next time, ask before taking someone like that. Maya returned to her station, her heart pounding. She saw Keanu looking at her, not with anger, not with pity, just calm understanding. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Yes," she lied, blinking back the sting in her eyes. "Just tired." The haircut ended. Maya turned the chair, showing him the mirror. "Looks great," she said. Keanu studied himself. He smiled. "Thank you. It's more than a cut. You gave me care." He stood, reached into his coat pocket, and pulled out a simple black card. "I'll pay at the front," he said, as he walked back through the salon, heads turned again. But this time, something shifted. A middle-aged man waiting in the lounge stood up suddenly, eyes wide. "Wait, is that—" his wife gasped. "That's Keanu Reeves." Within seconds, whispers turned to gasps. The stylists froze. The receptionist's face turned pale. The rich client who mocked him earlier dropped her coffee. Phones came out. Someone said his name aloud and it echoed through the salon like a wave. "Keanu Reeves!" The manager rushed forward, face red. "Sir, I didn't realize. Please let us offer a premium experience complimentary." Keanu raised a hand. "I already had the premium experience." He looked at Maya, then turned to the room. "Kindness doesn't wear designer clothes," he said softly. "And respect shouldn't wait for a name." With that, he left. Maya stood still, breath caught in her throat. The room was silent, but something had changed. Not in him, in them, and it was only the beginning. Whispers that wouldn't fade. The salon had never been so quiet. Even after Keanu walked out, the silence hung heavy in the air. Maya stood frozen near her chair, still holding the pair of scissors in her trembling hand. Everyone was staring at her now, not with the usual coldness or quiet pity for being the new girl, but with something else, a mix of shame, surprise, and for some, envy. The manager cleared her throat sharply, breaking the stillness. "Back to work," she snapped, trying to restore the fake order. But her voice didn't hold the same power anymore. It felt weaker, exposed. She turned quickly and disappeared into the back office, pretending to be busy. Clients began to murmur again, but it wasn't about hairstyles anymore. "I can't believe it. That really was Keanu Reeves. He came in like an ordinary man. And we treated him like dirt." Maya didn't move. She was still trying to process what had just happened. Her heart was racing, and not because of embarrassment, but because of what he said before leaving. "Kindness doesn't wear designer clothes." Those words echoed in her chest louder than the laughter of her co-workers ever had. She cleaned the chair slowly, breathing deeply. Part of her wanted to cry, not because of how the others had treated him, but because he had noticed her. Really noticed. In a room full of perfect faces and expensive shoes, he had seen her heart. Later that afternoon, she was called into the manager's office. The door shut behind her. "Maya," the manager began with a stiff smile. "We didn't get off on the right foot earlier. I was unaware of who the guest was." Maya said nothing. She didn't trust herself to speak without shaking. "You should have informed the front desk if a VIP like him was coming in," the manager continued. "If we'd known, we would have prepared properly." Maya finally spoke, her voice calm but firm. "He didn't ask to be treated like a VIP. He asked for a trim." The manager narrowed her eyes slightly. "Listen, I like you, but in this industry, image matters. Reputation matters. That man might have looked like nothing, but he was everything. And now, because of how this salon treated him, people might talk." Maya looked straight at her. "Maybe they should." The manager's jaw tightened. "That'll be all." Maya walked out, her hands cold, but her spine straight. She didn't know if she would have a job tomorrow. But somehow, it didn't matter anymore. Something had shifted inside her. She couldn't go back to being small just to keep others comfortable. That evening, while she stood outside waiting for her bus, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out and saw something that made her eyes widen. A friend had sent her a link. Breaking. Keanu Reeves surprises luxury salon with humble visit. One young stylist shows true kindness. The article had a blurry photo of him walking through the salon, and right behind him, Maya holding his coat with gentle hands. She scrolled down. The story was already spreading. Not just the fact that he had been mistreated, but the fact that one person had shown him genuine respect. Comment after comment praised the young woman who treated him with heart. Some even guessed her name. Others asked where she worked. Her hands trembled as she read more. User 123. Maya deserves the world. We need more people like her. Heart of Honor. I hope Keanu finds her again and gives her the recognition she deserves. Film Junkie 21. The way he said, kindness doesn't wear designer clothes. I cried. A tear slid down her cheek, but this time it wasn't out of fear or pressure. It was something warm, something freeing. By the time she got home, her inbox had more messages. She didn't open them all, but one caught her eye. It was short, from K. Reeves, subject. Thank you, buddy. Maya, you didn't just cut my hair. You reminded me that kindness still lives in unexpected places. Would you join me tomorrow for coffee? I'd like to talk. She sat on her bed, staring at the screen, her hands over her mouth. He remembered her name. He remembered her heart. The next morning, Maya arrived at the small cafe he had mentioned. It was quiet, tucked between a bookstore and a bakery. Nothing fancy, just warm, like him. He was already there, sitting at a table near the window, wearing the same jacket from the day before. He stood as she walked in. You came, he said, smiling. I almost didn't, she admitted, nervous. I thought maybe it wasn't real. It's very real, he said gently. I wanted to thank you in person, not just for the haircut, but for how you saw me. Maya looked down, her voice soft. They treated you so badly. I didn't know what to do. You did everything right, he said. You stayed kind when it would have been easy not to. They talked for an hour, about life, about how people judge, about how hard it is to stay gentle in a world that rewards cruelty. And he listened, not like a movie star, but like a man who knew the weight of silence. Then, he pulled something from his jacket. It was a small envelope. This isn't charity, he said. This is opportunity. My team is looking for someone real, someone with heart. I told them about you. Inside was an invitation to meet his personal stylist team. Not to cut his hair again, but to learn, to grow, to train under artists who worked not for fame, but for value. Maya stared at it, her hands shaking. Why me? She whispered. He looked at her kindly. Because you saw me before they knew who I was, and that means you're the kind of person this world desperately needs more of. The tears she had been holding back finally fell, and as he walked her outside into the sunlight, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Like she mattered, really mattered, and this was just the beginning. Doors she never thought would open. Maya stood at the edge of something she didn't fully understand. The envelope in her hands felt heavier than paper. It was a doorway, and behind it waited a life she had only dared to imagine during long bussy rides and quiet nights. A chance like this didn't come for people like her. And yet, here it was, given not because of luck, but because she had chosen kindness when it cost her. The next day, she showed up at the address on the card Keanu had given her. It wasn't a tall building with gold doors or a place covered in mirrors and fancy furniture. It was simple, modern, clean, quiet. But once inside, it felt like another world. The walls were lined with art, not paintings, but stories. Framed photos of people from all over the world, smiling, laughing, being themselves. Celebrities, yes, but also caretakers, dancers, musicians, and workers whose names nobody knew. All of them had one thing in common. They had been styled by the team she was about to meet. A woman with short silver hair approached her. She looked powerful, but kind, like someone who had built a life with both heart and fire. "You must be Maya," she said. "I'm Lena. I've heard a lot about you." Maya shook her hand, trying to hide the nerves in her fingertips. "I still don't understand why I'm here," she admitted. Lena smiled. "Because one of the most respected men in Hollywood said you're the kind of stylist the world needs." Maya looked down. "I just treated him like a person." "Exactly," Lena said. "And that's rarer than you think." They led her to a quiet room where a woman was seated, waiting. Her name was June. She was a well-known actress who was preparing for an award ceremony. "Maya will style you today," Lena said. June looked up, surprised. "She's new?" "She's real," Lena replied. Maya's hands shook as she held the brush, but June smiled warmly. "Don't worry," she said. "I've had 100 stylists. None of them cared as much as you already do." Those words steadied her hands. She began her work, carefully, gently. She didn't rush. She didn't pretend. She asked June about her day, her dress, her story, and as the styling took shape, so did something deeper, a quiet trust. When June looked into the mirror, she didn't just see herself transformed. She saw herself understood. "You have a gift," June said. "You don't just style hair, you see people." Maya smiled, unsure how to respond. She didn't know what to call what she was doing. She just knew it felt right. As she packed up her tools, Lena stepped in again. "How would you feel about a 6-month mentorship?" Lena asked. "With us, full-time, paid. We'll teach you everything, if you're ready." Maya's heart skipped. I would love that." "Good," Lena said, "because we've already cleared your schedule." While Maya's world began to change. Back at the luxury salon where she once worked, a different kind of storm was building. The story of Keanu's visit had gone viral. Dozens of articles, millions of views. People weren't just talking about his humility, they were angry about how he had been treated. Reviews for the salon dropped sharply. Former clients shared stories. Videos surfaced. Screenshots of rude behavior. Whispers became voices. Voices became pressure. The manager tried to fight it. She posted statements, made excuses, even tried to shift blame onto Maya. But it didn't work. Too many people had seen the truth, and the truth didn't wear makeup. Within 2 weeks, the salon lost 3 of its most loyal clients. One of the top stylists quit and started her own studio. The staff walked on eggshells. Even the building owner began asking questions. Meanwhile, Maya, once the shy girl cleaning chairs, was now learning from the best. And not just how to cut hair, but how to listen, how to lead, how to make people feel seen. She styled dancers, stage actors, cancer survivors, young girls attending their first school event. And each time, she remembered what Keanu had told her. "Yao, you." Reminded me that kindness still lives in unexpected places. 3 months later, Keanu visited again. He walked into the studio quietly, like he always did. No cameras, no fanfare. Maya was working on a child who had just finished chemotherapy. She didn't notice him at first. Her focus was on the boy, on making him feel brave again. When she finally looked up, her face lit up with quiet joy. "You came back?" she said. "I said we'd talk again," he replied. He waited until her session ended, then sat with her outside, sipping coffee like old friends. "You've grown," he said. "I can see it. I feel like I'm becoming who I always was. I just never had anyone to believe in me before." "Sometimes," Keanu said, "we only need one person to see us clearly." Maya paused. "Why did you come that day?" To the salon? He smiled. I was just walking. Felt like a haircut. I wanted to see if people still treated strangers with heart. And did they? One of them did. Maya laughed softly, her eyes full of light. As the sun set behind them, casting golden light across the city, Maya realized something beautiful. The world was still sharp, still unfair, still filled with people who judged books by their covers. But sometimes, just sometimes, one act of quiet kindness could rewrite a person's future, and hers was only just beginning. The interview that changed everything. The sun filtered through the tall windows of the studio as Maya wiped down her tools after another long but fulfilling day. Her hands moved automatically, but her mind was spinning. Lena had just pulled her aside and told her something that didn't feel real yet. There's a reporter coming in tomorrow, Lena had said. From an international magazine. They're doing a story on real changemakers in Hollywood, and they want to include you. Maya's first instinct had been panic. She wasn't ready. She wasn't famous. She wasn't used to cameras or microphones. What could she say that mattered to the world? But Lena had placed a hand gently on her shoulder and said, "Just be who you are. That's the reason they want you in the first place." The next morning came too fast. Maya stood in front of her mirror, brushing her hair and trying to calm her breath. She wore a simple white blouse and light jeans. She had fancier clothes now, but she didn't want to pretend. She wanted to show up as herself, like she always had. The reporter arrived at noon. Her name was Evelyn, a sharp-eyed woman with a soft voice. She carried a small recorder and a leather-bound notebook. They sat in the quiet break room, sipping warm tea. "I've heard a lot about you," Evelyn said, "but I'd like to hear it from your side. Who is Maya, really?" Maya laughed nervously. "Just a girl who gave a haircut and didn't expect the world to notice." "But the world did," Evelyn replied. "And that's what we're interested in. Tell me about that day." So Maya did. She talked about the salon, about how she'd been treated since day one, about how Keanu walked in looking like any other tired man, and how the others had mocked him, about the silence that fell when they realized who he was, and about how he had changed her life, not by giving her something, but by seeing her. Evelyn listened carefully, taking notes. Then she asked a question Maya wasn't ready for. "Have you forgiven them? The ones at your old salon?" Maya paused. For a long moment, she stared at the floor, thinking. Then she nodded slowly. "Yes. Not because they deserve it, but because I don't want to carry them with me anymore." Evelyn looked impressed. "That's powerful," Maya smiled. "It's peace, and peace feels lighter than anger." The interview ended with warm words and a photo. Maya standing with her tools near the studio window, sunlight catching the edges of her smile. 1 week later, the article was published online and in print. The headline read, "The Kindness That Humbled Hollywood. How One Stylist Reminded the World to See Beyond Appearances." Photos of Maya and Keanu filled the page. Her story was told with honesty and grace. The part that touched most readers, though, wasn't about the celebrity. It was about her. Choice to forgive and move forward. The response was immediate. Messages poured in. Thousands. Young women from all over the world wrote to her. "I was afraid to speak up. Now I want to try. Thank you for showing me that kindness still matters. You gave me hope." Celebrities reposted the article. News outlets quoted it. Her following online grew overnight. Brands reached out with offers. Television shows asked for interviews. Maya was overwhelmed. It all felt like a dream, spinning too fast. But through it all, she stayed grounded. Every morning, she came to the studio. She greeted clients. She swept the floors. She remembered who she was and where she came from. Then came a call that shook her heart. Her mother. They hadn't spoken in years. Not because of hate, but because of distance. Maya had left home young, chasing freedom and survival. There had been pain, misunderstanding, and silence. But now, her mother's voice was soft on the phone. "I read your story," she said, "and I'm proud of you." Maya's eyes filled. "I didn't think you'd want to see me again. I didn't know how to say I missed you," her mother whispered, "but now I don't want to waste another minute." They made plans. A weekend visit, just the two of them. It was scary and beautiful all at once. Keanu called the same day. "You okay with all the attention?" he asked. Maya chuckled. "I didn't expect it, but I'm handling it." "You always do," he said. "What about you?" she asked. "Why do you do it? Help strangers? Disappear quietly?" He paused, then said, "Because once, someone helped me when I was at my lowest. They didn't ask for anything, and I never forgot it. Kindness spreads like fire when you let it." Maya smiled, her voice soft. "Thank you for choosing my chair that day." "I didn't choose it," he said. "Life chose it for me." Later that night, Maya stood on her apartment balcony, looking out over the city. Cars rushed. Lights flickered. Voices echoed from distant windows. She had once felt invisible here. Now, she was part of something bigger than herself. Not because of fame, not because of followers, but because she had stayed true when it mattered. And now the world was listening, not just to her voice, but to the quiet message behind it. That sometimes, the smallest act of respect could open the biggest door. When the past came walking in, the days moved quickly now. Maya was invited to style a young actress for a major award show. Not just any actress, someone known for breaking stereotypes, for speaking up about fairness and dignity. The girl had requested Maya by name, saying, "I want the one who treated Keanu like a human, not a headline." As Maya stood backstage that night, helping the girl prepare, she saw flashes of her old self. The quiet version, the unsure one. But she also saw the girl who had stood beside Keanu while the world watched, and didn't flinch. It wasn't about fame, it was about meaning. The young actress looked at her reflection and whispered, "I feel seen." Maya smiled. "You are." But just as the high of the evening settled in her chest, fate decided to test her strength once more. 2 days later, while working quietly at the studio, Maya heard the front door open. She turned and froze. It was her former salon manager. The woman wore the same expensive heels, the same polished look, but none of her old confidence. There were new lines around her eyes. Stress, maybe, or regret. She walked toward Maya slowly, almost awkwardly. "Maya," she said. Maya stood still, unsure what to say. The manager lowered her eyes. "I wanted to speak to you, if you'll let me." Maya nodded once, silently. They sat at a bench near the back, where fresh sunlight poured through the window. The same light that had once made Maya feel small now fell softly around her shoulders. "Like armor. I lost the salon," the manager began. "Clients pulled out, staff left. The owner terminated the lease. I tried to fix it, but the damage was already done." Maya listened quietly. She didn't feel bitter, just surprised. "I know what I said to you was wrong," the manager continued, "and how I treated him. I was more worried about image than heart. It took everything falling apart for me to see that." She looked up, her voice cracking. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, I'm just sorry." Maya took a deep breath. The air didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt clear. "Thank you," she said softly. "I don't hate you. I did for a while. But it only hurt me. And you were right. You were worried about image. I was too once. But that day, I chose something else." The manager blinked fast. "You did more than that. You changed everything. People are different now, more careful, more real." Maya smiled gently. "I didn't change the world. I just stood still when everyone else turned away." The woman nodded, then reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "This was yours," she said. "You left it in your drawer. I never opened it. Thought you might want it back." Maya took the envelope, confused. After the woman left, Maya sat alone and opened it slowly. Inside was an old note, something she had written to herself on her first day at the salon when she was too scared to speak out. The paper was creased, the ink slightly faded. "If no one sees your heart, show it anyway." Her eyes filled with tears. She had forgotten that note. But somehow, it had waited for her, quietly, like a seed, buried deep, blooming only now, later. That week, Maya was invited to an event for rising voices in the creative world. Not for influencers, not for stars, but for people who had made quiet ripples that became waves. Keanu was there too, of course. They didn't walk in together. They never needed to. He smiled when he saw her and said, "Ready to speak?" She shook her head, terrified. "Good," he replied. "Means you care." When it was her turn, Maya stood in front of the microphone. The lights were bright, and the room was filled with people who had stories, power, and attention. But she wasn't here to impress them. She was here to reach someone sitting at home, wondering if their small kindness even mattered. So she told her story, about how she once worked at a place that didn't value heart, about a man who walked in looking like nothing, and how choosing to treat him with dignity changed everything. She didn't mention fame, not once. She spoke about choice. "You never know who's watching," she said. "But even if no one is, your kindness is never wasted. It stays, it grows, and sometimes it walks back into your life in ways you never imagined." There was silence when she finished. And then the applause came, not loud or showy, but deep. Real. Keanu clapped the longest. After the event, as the crowd thinned out, Maya walked alone to the balcony. Keanu joined her quietly. They didn't speak for a while. Then he said, "Do you still think you're just a girl who gave a haircut?" She laughed gently. "No, I think I'm someone who finally saw herself." He looked at her with calm pride. "Good, because the world needs more of her." Beneath the stars, Maya felt something settle inside her, a stillness, a truth, a peace she'd been chasing for years. It wasn't about where she worked now. It wasn't about who she stood next to. It was about who she had become when no one was looking, and how that person was enough. The kindness that came full circle, weeks passed. The air was cooler now, with soft winds that whispered of change. Maya's life had grown larger, yet she carried it gently, as if afraid it might disappear, but it didn't. It kept unfolding, layer by layer, like petals on a flower that had waited a long time to bloom. Every morning, she still came into the studio early. She swept the floors herself. She cleaned her own tools. Even after new assistants were assigned to her, she never let go of the little things. It reminded her of who she was before the world saw her. Clients came from everywhere now. Some brought tears, others laughter. Some asked about Keanu. Others asked simply to be heard. And she gave each one the same care she gave him that day in the salon, because fame had never been her goal. Dignity had. One afternoon, Lena pulled her aside. "There's someone here to see you," she said. "I didn't book the appointment. He walked in, asked for you." Maya stepped out into the waiting area and froze. It was a young man, no older than 22. His clothes were wrinkled, his shoes torn, his hands clutched a backpack like it held everything he owned. He stood up quickly, nervous. "Are you Maya?" She nodded gently. "Yes." His voice cracked. "I saw your interview, the one about Keanu Reeves. I've been sleeping in shelters. No one looks me in the eye anymore. But when you spoke, I felt human again." He looked down, ashamed. "I don't have much, but I just wanted to feel like me again, even for 1 hour. Maya's heart tightened. She walked toward him and touched his arm softly. You don't need much to be seen. Come with me. She brought him to her chair. She didn't ask for money, didn't ask what his story was. She just did what she always did. Saw the person in front of her. Truly saw him. She gave him a full haircut, cleaned him up, offered him warm tea and a clean towel. They talked about small things, his love for music, his dream of learning guitar. By the time she turned his chair to the mirror, tears rolled down his cheeks. I haven't recognized myself in a long time, he whispered. Maya placed a hand on his shoulder. You were always there. You just needed someone to remind you. He left with a small smile and a little more hope. Maya stood watching him walk away, heart full. And in that moment, she remembered something Keanu had once said. Kindness spreads like fire when you let it. A few days later, Lena surprised her with a letter. No sender name, just a handwritten note. It read, Dear Maya, I never believed in the power of one person until you. I was that boy once, sitting in a chair, invisible to the world. Your heart healed more than hair that day. I've decided to fund a new project, a mobile salon, built for those who can't walk into places like ours without fear of judgment. It will travel across cities. It will carry your spirit with it. And I'd like you to name it. The world is full of broken mirrors. You taught us how to reflect light again. Thank you. Kamaya stared at the letter, stunned. Tears fell freely, not because it was from him, but because he had understood. Again. Weeks later, under an open sky and warm sun, Maya stood beside a small, silver van with clean windows and soft lights inside. Across its side, painted in gentle brushstrokes, were the words, Mirror of Dignity. They launched it in her old neighborhood. She styled hair for free that day. Children, mothers, even. A retired teacher who cried when she saw her reflection. Keanu showed up quietly near sunset. No cameras, just him. He stood at a distance, watching her laugh with a little girl who had never been to a salon before. When the girl ran off to show her mother her new hair, Keanu walked over. You made something beautiful, he said. We made it, she corrected. He nodded. Do you still think you were just one person? I am just one person, she replied. But one person is enough. They sat under the soft golden sky, people still gathering around them, lives being touched without anyone making a show of it. Maya looked out at the crowd, then at him. I used to want the world to notice me, she said. But now, I just want the world to feel noticed. Keanu smiled, quiet and proud. And you've done that, he said. You've become the very thing that changed your life, she thought. Of the girl she used to be, the one who was afraid to speak, who wiped chairs and listened to whispers behind her back. And she thought of the man who once sat in her chair, unnoticed by everyone but her. They had both come full circle, not through fame, not through fortune, but through kindness, through the decision to stay human in a world that forgot how. And now, wherever the mirror of dignity would travel, it would carry that lesson, with scissors, with tea, with warmth, with heart. The lesson that it takes only one small act of care to make someone feel whole again.